Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
Welcome to the North Idaho College Public Forum, and both this week and next week we have a two-week series that we call a travelogue, and from you we've heard you enjoy those. And this week we're going to Thailand, and next week Cambodia with our wonderful, wonderful friend and guest and colleague at North Idaho College, Dr. Virginia Tinsley Johnson, has been a colleague since I arrived at North Idaho College in 1970, and she recently went with her spouse and another group to those two countries. And also, Dr. Johnson has also been on this program a number of times in our book review, our annual book review. And Virginia, it's always a great pleasure to have you here. And she holds distinguished degrees, a baccalaureate degree from the College of Idaho, a master's from the University of Idaho, and a doctorate from Idaho State University. And she has been a very prominent member of the English department, and she was actually chosen as the teacher of the year, the professor of the year of community colleges in America some years ago. And we're so pleased to have her here today. Welcome, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Tony. I'm looking forward to this. You didn't mention that I've also been here as my alter ego, Mary Wollstonecraft.
Oh, yes.
She couldn't make it today.
Yes, you're a great photographer performer. And I have to say that our guest also is the chair of the Division of Communications, Fine Arts, and Humanities at North Idaho College. And we're so pleased to have Erna Reinhardt, our regular panelist, that is also the Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College. And Erna will commence today's questioning.
This is one of my favorite shows, the travel shows. So welcome to the show, Virginia.
Thanks, Anna.
And we're going to spend today talking about Thailand. So let's start by talking about the time of year that you went and how you actually got there.
Okay. My husband, Graydon, and I went from December 26th through January 12th, so right after Christmas. And I'd been in Thailand once before. I went to a friend's daughter's wedding in Pakistan about 10 years ago and got stuck in Bangkok because of plane foul up, so I really didn't have much of a look at it. And actually, I was looking on the web for ways to get to Europe. And I found this really great deal for a tour group to go to Thailand. And I thought, Europe, Asia, when it's freezing cold, I'll take Thailand. And so off we went with a tour group called Smart Tours.
And so was that about 2 weeks?
It was about a little over 17 days altogether.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about the company that you went with and how much of the country did you actually
this was a group that I hadn't ever heard of before called Smart Tours, and they have travel groups all over the world, I found out. And in fact, the group that we were with came from all over the United States, and then one couple was from Canada. And a couple of the couples had been with this group 5 and 6 times and gone various places, so that made us feel really good that we'd chosen a good group. It's always a little nerve-wracking to think you're going with a group of people who are total strangers and you're going, oh boy, what will this be like? But they were a wonderful group and interesting and entertaining and really bright people, and some young people, college age, a little older, and some more mature people, such as my husband and me. And so what we did was that we met in Los Angeles. A group started in New York and came to LA, and then we flew from Los Angeles to Seoul, and then on to Bangkok. And then we went from Bangkok north. We went actually from not the southernmost part, but from Bangkok, which is sort of in central Thailand, up to the border of Myanmar or Burma. And then we did go in an afternoon into Laos, and then came back down, flew back to Bangkok from Chiang Mai, and then from there we went into Cambodia.
And give our viewers a little bit of an insight into how big Thailand is in terms of, compare it to a state in the United States,
Oh gosh,
if you
can
could.
I do that? I don't know. I'd say, my feeling was that it's about the length of Idaho, maybe, but it's much broader. It's probably a couple of 100 miles or more across. So it's a fairly large country.
And you spent that time moving by coach? Or?
We did, yes. Except for the one jaunt that we took flying back down into Bangkok. We were on buses. We went by boat, some really scary boats, on the Mekong and the Mekong River. And that was really an interesting feeling. You know, those of us who remember the Vietnam War and being in the Golden Triangle, and just eerie feeling that it's okay to go there. So we were in these boats and life jackets, who cared? Anyway, but most of the time we were in coaches, with a tour guide who had a microphone and gave us talks along the way. Wonderful, wonderful guides we had, by the way.
Great.
Every time we do these shows, Virginia, we take our viewers on the trip. You're just wonderful. You came back with a huge number of slides, photographs, and we're going to show some displays you have on the table here. But let's take the trip now with our viewers. You have on this show about 27 slides, and our wonderful staff will put them up now, and you can just take us through those. We'll go through those fairly rapidly, but they can see what it's like. Here's the first one.
Okay, the first one is taken in Bangkok, and we went to many wats in Bangkok. A wat means a temple, and this was a temple with, as you see, a very large golden Buddha. And there are many things that happen at these. What I learned is that there are about 12 poses of the Buddha, and this is the Buddha in contemplation. We also had Buddha walking, a gigantic Buddha reclining, Buddha blessing the waters, calling for peace, and so on. And this is the Buddha with his hand held in his lap, as you see there.
And we'll go to the next slide.
The next slide is a really, along with the one following this, some very interesting characters. These are also in Bangkok at the Wat Phra Kwai, and these are guardian deities called Yaksha. And they're very beautiful blue color and many different colored tiles making them up. So that's one of them guarding the temple.
Really great. And then we'll go to
And then
number
the
3.
next one is an even scarier guy, and you see how huge this one is, another Yaksha. And this is near the Grand Palace there in Bangkok. By the way, it's about 90 degrees here, and this is December 28th, and you see people in their short sleeves. And I had a little motorized fan with a battery that I carried around with me and blew, coming from below zero to here, it was quite an adventure. But the beautiful tiled ceiling, or roofs, on these buildings too, were beautiful to look at.
And number 4.
Number 4 is a little different view of Bangkok. One of the things that we enjoyed so much is that we got to meet the family of a friend of ours, a young woman in Spokane who is from Bangkok. And she asked me to deliver some things to her family, and that's her father on the left with the glasses. And Poom is the woman in Spokane. Her sister is the young lady, Jung, who is there, and then the young man on the right is their brother. And they met us, they came to our hotel, and because my husband lost our camera on the airplane, we had to go buy another camera in this enormous, but 7-story tall Macy's-like shopping center. And here in the Buddhist center of Asia is Christmas. And these really interesting Americanized people running around with the antlers and giving free cookies and things. And
that's great.
You see the young people.
5.
Number 5 is a sort of temple-like thing that's built on the streets, and they have these hot pink tacks, as you can see there on the right. It was the 50th anniversary of the king's being on the throne, and the king is actually almost worshipped in Thailand and adored. And even though there had been a military coup, we felt nothing of any of that going on. But that king, according to Chai, our leader, could probably walk on water. And everywhere they had these big monuments built to him, pictures of him and his wife and so on, and that was one of them in downtown.
And number 6.
This is one of my messages to cities. These are the street lights in Phitsanulok, and they're beautiful archers. In other cities, they had characters with umbrellas and dancing girls, and they're these, mile after mile of these beautiful golden light posts.
Amazing.
They were just spectacular. This is also an unusual experience. These are little tiny shrimp are swimming around in this pan of water near Phitsanulok, and from these we had jumping shrimp salad. Chai, our leader, said you must have these. These are a treat in Thailand. So a woman sitting there on the street corner got a little tiny net out, and she netted all these little tiny shrimp. And then in the next picture, you will see that she is making the jumping shrimp salad in this large bowl with a mortar and pestle, and she's putting in very hot spices and cabbage and bean sprouts, and she grinds them up, and then you eat them. Yes, they are still not jumping, but
very interesting.
Very interesting, and you had to eat a lot of cabbage afterwards. This is near the Monkey Temple near Phitsanulok, and this fellow, Tony, was an absolutely fantastic companion on the trip. He is, by the way, wearing this yellow shirt that many of us bought as a celebration of the king's birthday, and the king's color is yellow. And he was dancing there with some people who called us all in to dance with them. They had a gong and some drums, and they were just celebrating near the temple. The monkey temple, by the way, is filled with monkeys. It's very smelly. Next, we got to go to a factory where they make Buddhas. This is a bronze factory, and they had Buddhas of all different sizes, and this is in the process of making these Buddhas that show up everywhere in the country.
And the next one?
The next is, well, I have a little section on food here, don't I? This was in a shopping mall that was attached to our hotel in Phitsanulok, and this was Kentucky Fried Chicken. And here is the specialty of the day. It's a corn sundae. So this is softy ice cream with, and that's an ear of corn, yes, and that is corn. I did not eat one. I couldn't bring myself, but then I thought, corn solids, corn syrup. This, on the other hand, was the worst breakfast we had. We had wonderful breakfast, omelets to order. These were hot dog florets, cold eggs, and onions and tomatoes. And we did have one bag.
Unusual combination.
It was very unusual. But we thought hot dog florets were wonderful. Now here's something a little more along the lines of the usual tourist stuff. This is at one of the ruins that we visited in Thailand. And the Buddha with the very long ears, and that's my husband and me. And we have our orange identifying buttons from our tour group. After a while, we forgot those. But the Buddha has very long ears as a sign of long life. So we thought that would be a good thing to pose by. This is one of my favorite places. We were going up the Mekong River. We stopped in this temple that's built in a cave. And the monk there has many items. You'll see over my head where I'm kneeling. People bring gifts to the monks every morning, and this monk is making bracelets out of string, twine, and I'd asked him to bless one for a dear friend of mine who had breast cancer. So he is making this for me, and I think in the next one I am receiving this, and that's Chai, our leader, who is translating. Most marvelous monk, I mean, he almost did glow. He was such a holy man.
Great moment. Yeah.
A very great moment. Let's see, the next one is part of our visit to the Orchid Farm. And you'll see these orchids are just hanging from the poles, and they're misted. They have their roots are hanging there. They are not planted, but they're row upon row upon row of orchids at this Orchid Farm. Yes. And this is a close-up. This is after I figured out how to use my camera.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
You passed the test.
I did. This is also up the Mekong River. We went to visit a village there with little children, and a friend had told me about taking school supplies. And so I went to a local store here, and I took a whole bunch of pencils and pens and erasers and stickers. And Chai said, wait till we get to the little kids. And all these little kindergartners lined up, and I gave them pencils and pens. My favorite is the guy with the bunny ears on the right there and the little orange jacket. I think he probably got that jacket about 5 years ago, and he likes it too. He's still wearing it.
You're a great American, not the ugly American. You know how to treat the
well,
people.
This was a great adventure. One of the reasons we went on this trip was we got to ride on an elephant, and this was a poo, that's a boy elephant. And my story about this is while my husband and I were there, this is our mahout on a toot, because this mahout had been drinking quite a lot. And I can tell you from the backdraft over the top of him. And he had some strange tobacco or some smoking object in the band of his hat that he kept lighting up and smoking and then putting away. He looks pretty laid back there, I think.
But he kept you on the road.
He kept us on the road. It wasn't hard. It was a big trail that we just followed. And I think I have one more orchid shot that came in here because this was such a beautiful candy-colored orchid.
Yes.
And then I think I've intermixed these with, here's this same elephant place where they're washing the elephants. This was a big deal. We got to stand on the bridge and the mahouts came. And each mahout has his own elephant, so they are sort of lifetime companions with the mahouts. The elephants no longer really work, but they did demonstrate how they worked. And then in the next slide, you'll see how dexterous they are with those trunks. This is the elephant taking off the hat of the mahout. They also came in playing harmonicas, and they painted. And this elephant is painting a self-portrait. They also painted flowers, but we were closest to this one. So here he's painting, and in the next slide, you'll see the finished product of an elephant in profile. Then I think we have a couple of more elephants. This is the one taken by the mahout of us. He got off and jumped down and took a picture of us on our... You can see there's another couple behind us, and there was just a long string of us. We got on a big platform, by the way, and walked onto these sort of Ferris wheel seats that we sat on. And then the last one here is of the baby elephant. Look how furry she is. She's a doll.
Isn't that wonderful?
I just heard on public radio a couple of days ago that a new baby elephant was just born here, a little boy elephant. The Mazer girls, a new Pum, was born, product of artificial insemination. And so we said, we know where that is, and we know where the baby hospital is at that elephant place. So this was great.
You brought
adventure.
a lot of other things with you.
I did
and
indeed.
I want you to show a couple of things that you were just so great to this. First of all is the frog. I just thought that was, if you can hold up there to the camera.
Yes, this frog I got at a show that we went to. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. But we kept hearing the sound. Now my husband and I live near a swamp, so we always know when it's spring by the way it has arrived because the frogs wake up. And so this little boy was just running this over, and they had all different sizes of frogs. They had big bull frogs, and they had this tiny frog and medium-sized frogs. But I had to buy a new suitcase for all the items I bought already, so I didn't bring the family of frogs.
Before we go back to Erna, one other thing is when I was a child, I had a bad experience with a snake, and I'm just terrorized of snakes. But show the bottle there. That's something they drink, and
yes.
I don't believe I could be able to do that.
Well, as I mentioned, we did take a trip up down the Mekong River into Laos one afternoon, and that was a great adventure of shopping and looking at things. And on a table sitting in this little hut were I don't know, 50 or so bottles. And the label says, I'll read this and I'll turn it back, something in Laotian. Real specialty of Laos, snake whiskey, 1 unit. Usage, rheumatism, lumbago, sweat of limbs. Dosage, twice a day, each a small cup before meal. And then if you will look, you will see that indeed there is a snake in the snake whiskey. This is probably a little cobra. I don't know how they got it in there to have its tail in its mouth. There were very large bottles that had big cobras and frogs and tarantulas. And did you want a little swig, Tony?
No, I just say that in doing this show for 35 years, it's the first time we've had that item. That's the most interesting. Thank you. Erna Reinhardt.
Well, I have so many questions, I'm not quite sure where to start, but I know one of the things that you really, really enjoy yourself, Virginia, is art.
Yes.
So talk to us a little, share with us, did you go to any galleries there? Are there vendors on the sidewalk? What kind of art did you see?
Well, we saw magnificent sculptures, of course, because we saw all these Buddhas. And Buddhas that some of them had been covered with plaster, one the Emerald Buddha had, and then in moving it, they found that it was pure gold underneath. So beautiful artwork in the temples and just the decorations inside the temples. At the Grand Palace, of course, we went inside buildings where there were paintings collected by the king. And then just intricate paintings on the outside of buildings, almost like watercolor flowers and birds that were on the outsides of the temples. So a lot of the art was located in the temples, and because of the nature of our trip, we were seeing a lot of the temples. So seeing the Buddhas in various poses. This gigantic Buddha, I'm really sorry I don't have a picture of that, but my camera was not yet purchased at the store. And by the way, the instruction manual was in Thai anyway, so I had a little trouble with that. And then I must confess that I dropped the camera after I got it, and so it was frozen with the shutter, and it was a long trip before I could get it fixed. So many of these photos are from friends we made on the trip. But anyway, so we did go to some craft places where we saw them, for example, making the Buddhas and
You have
so
some
on.
things up on the screen now that are from the trip.
I do. I guess I can just tell you, if we go from the left, this hat that you see here is one that I bought at the village up the Mekong River from where I gave away the things to the children. And these women just swarmed us, and they had these intricately, I guess, cut out and then sewn together. And that's my new fishing hat. So we'll see if the trout in the Little Salmon River are scared off by those, because that's where I'll go fishing. Over on the far right, there's another photograph of my husband and me on the elephant, and that one's interesting because I bought it at the elephant camp. And of course, shall we talk about biological recycling? Elephants eat a lot, and they, as a result, have much byproduct of their digestion. Did I say that okay?
That was excellent.
And they have people who go around with these gigantic plastic bags and collect it, and a lot of it out of the river as it floats down, and then they recycle it, and that is elephant dung paper. that the frame is made of. The item next to that, and I don't know if you can see that, but I bought a Thai saxophone, and it's made out of a gourd and some bamboo. And this gentleman was standing in a shop and playing it, and I heard it, and I, of course, head of the music department, though I'm not musical, asked about it, and this young man started speaking to me in English. There it is, yeah. It's the 3 prongs sticking up are the bamboo and then the gourd, and they're put together with beeswax. And I've given this to about 4 people who play the saxophone, and they can hardly make any sound come out of it. It has holes underneath, and it has holes on the bamboo. And it makes a beautiful sound, and I know it's legit because when we went to a show there in Thailand, this was one of the instruments that they played for the dancers. The object in the little gold object you see there is a Buddha that I bought at one of the temples that had been blessed by the monk, and it is a really special blessed Buddha that I have in my office. So I have that as a treasure.
How about the food? Share with us what some of the highlights of the food were.
The food was fantastic. Of course, it's spicy everywhere you go, although you can ask for, they have this great salad made with green mango that's shredded up, and then you can sort of put it together on your own, and you can decide how much pepper you want to put in it or not. There's little tiny peppers that are the hottest that you can imagine. They're just about as big as a dot, and they are very hot, flaming hot. Fresh fruit, I became very spoiled by fresh mango and watermelon and pineapple every day for breakfast. We went to so many buffets, and we could choose just about everything we wanted. The one thing I craved, though, was chocolate, and they didn't have very good chocolate. In fact, that's one of the things I took from Poom to her parents was chocolate from the United States. But there were so many other great things. In fact, when I got home, I've taken up drinking mango juice because I just couldn't get past that great flavor.
Excellent.
So my favorite, may I tell you my favorite place to eat, though, was a place called Condoms and Cabbages. And this was started by people who were very concerned about the exorbitant birth rate in Thailand. And so they started a restaurant where they wanted to make condoms as available as cabbages. And they had the most spectacular shrimp I have ever eaten in my life. And it was just wonderful food. So.
And what city was in that?
They had one in Bangkok, and then I think the other one was in Chiang Mai, where we also were. Yeah.
Excellent.
On trips that I've taken with students, and one of the things you want to do is you travel, and you're being so informative, it's really exciting for our viewers, is to go to shows, entertainment, and all. Mm-hmm. And you've talked a little bit about some things happen, but how about what you experienced with the Thai people with entertainment?
Well, we had different kinds of entertainment. I think the favorite one that we went to, besides dancing in the street, which I showed you, was another show where they had more folk dancing, and different villages were represented, and so they had characters in big shaggy bear costumes and beautiful dancing girls, with the long curving gold fingernails and the very graceful movements and the gorgeous hairdos and so on, and then boys and girls dancing together. And so, and hearing the instruments and seeing that happening. Some of the other entertainment was quite amazing. The children kind of running on the streets kind of wild, and then going to a shopping mall, which I'll talk about next time, where they're playing video games. And I always say, nothing is like what you think it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Even seeing young people there with the headphones on and cell phones in abundance, just can't believe.
Just worldwide.
Worldwide. Mm-hmm. And even the family that we met there who weren't awfully well-to-do had the cell phone. They passed it from mama to daughter and so on, but they had the cell phone. And apparently it's cheaper in some of these countries to have cell phones than landlines because mm-hmm. they don't have the money to put in the infrastructure for the telephones. But yeah, so they're watching their shows, their stuff that's another form of entertainment.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Before our show's over, you just look wonderful today, and I think you're wearing some things that you got.
I am in fact. Thanks, Tony. My jacket, for one thing, is one of the exorbitant things. I did take a jacket with me. I had read that you could have clothes made if you took something, then you didn't have to go back and have it fitted. And I had a jacket, in fact, I bought from our costumer here that had been worn by Candice Bergen on the Murphy Brown Show. So I say it still has Candice Bergen's DNA I'll probably never get it cleaned. But I took it with me, and I left it at this place where Chai said, this is guaranteed really good quality. So this guy brings out this beautiful fabric, which is wool and silk, and throws it out there. And I said, okay. And then I had another made in a bright blue linen and silk. And so
It's wonderful. It's
I
beautiful.
have it. It is. And then the necklace I have on, and I don't know that we need to do a close-up, but inside is a little brass Buddha, and it's gotten all scratched. But this was a gift of the family, Poom's family, and they gave it to us for a safe journey.
Oh, how wonderful.
And everywhere we went, people would say, oh, you have that, you have the Buddha. And then while you're in here, I'll show you that I have this bracelet was one that I got at a temple that was blessed. And then this other bead bracelet was given to me by a woman from whom I bought a wall hanging. I can't figure out if she gave that to me because I was such a good bargainer, or that I was such a lousy one, she thought she'd better throw it in because she'd really taken me. Yes. And then I do have this necklace, and I don't know if I can show you this one or not. Oops, I'm taking this up. We went to a silver factory, and I bought this necklace,
yes.
which is little tiny elephants all marching along, one behind the other.
Yeah,
Very
they
unusual.
are, aren't they?
Yeah.
You have to get
So
up close
these
to see them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you were a great, great tourist because you learned about the people. I mean, you also
did.
brought back wonderful examples of what they do.
The people were just the best. They were so friendly.
On that note, Dr. Johnson, we bring the program to conclusion. What a great show it has been. And we have great news for our viewers. You're coming back next week and be on the program, and we're going to go to Cambodia on that program. You're a great traveler, and for the viewers who do not know, that after Virginia Johnson portrayed Mary Wollstonecraft, one of the great pioneers in women's rights in the world, she actually left the United States and took a tour of Europe on the routes that Mary Wollstonecraft took by herself, chartered her whole trip, and so she's the kind of guest you want to have because she knows how to travel and she knows how to learn about people and countries, and she certainly has demonstrated that here today, and she's, as I've said many times before, a wonderful friend and very supportive of our program, what we do. And as I indicated earlier, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll be with us again next week when Dr. Virginia Tinsley Johnson will be back. And as I indicated, we will take our tour of Cambodia, that's next door to Thailand, while she was there right after Christmas when we're taking this program in March. Until next week, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.